I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, I'm just a media person who, a couple of months ago, decided to attend a program in the NASA park of Silicon Valley called Singularity University. It's not a program about media or the future of storytelling. It's a program about nanotechnologies, artificial intelligence, genetics, bioengineering, neuroscience. And it's a program about, as well, my favorite topics today, robotics. Try to understand me. I'm not, as I said, I'm not a scientist. And when I went to attend this program, I was completely mesmerized because I didn't know anything about these activities. But this program really changed my life and changed as well the perception that I have about the future. When I was thinking about the future, I always thought about a catastrophic society, a dystopian society, which was ruled by machines and few enlightened men. And actually, this image, I got it from a book I read when I was young, called Brave New World. I don't know if you read the book. It's from the 30s and describes the society really in an incredible way. So what I'm saying is that today we are talking about ancient future. And what I would like to do is actually to compare what Aldous Huxley said in the 30s with what we are trying, in a sense, living today or building today. So the book doesn't want to be a philosophical essay. It doesn't want to be the scientific prophecy. It's just a science fiction satirical novel which describes what is the future, or actually it's kind of not so distant from a future that we are, unfortunately, maybe building today. So we have to be careful, because this book criticizes the lack of individuality, the lack of emotion, and as well a sort of abundant and superfluous happiness. It is set in London in the future time, and is inspired by the capacity of the writer, Aldous Huxley, of extrapolating social trends and as well scientific discoveries. It is inspired as well by a trip, the first trip he did in the United States, where he found a population that was kind of rendered passive and docile by a kind of advertising and retailing therapy. But the biggest inspiration that he got was from a meeting he had with the industrialist in the United States, which inspired him about a future that could be managed by the functionalism or by the managerial functionalism of mass production, which he called Fordism, because actually Henry Ford is really a kind of protagonist in this book. The year of the book is the 2540, in the future, but actually translates in year 632, year by Ford, 632. Why? It's inspired by this car. You remember this car, I think. It's the T Ford, also called as Tin Lizzie, which really changed completely the life, the work, and the travel of the Americans. Why? Because it was produced in the assembly line, so it was actually available for the majority of the Americans. But let me ask you something, because this car produced a big disruption, a big change in the society at that time. But in your opinion, what this car is going to do? Do you know this car? It's the self-driving car by Google. It's a car that drives by itself. Of course, it's going to create a kind of challenge, economic challenge for the lack of drivers, but as well it's going to give us something back, the time that we use in commuting. It's going to, for example, we are not going to need to find parking spot, or otherwise speeding won't be an issue anymore. But instead, the time that we are going to get back in commuting is going to be spent, let's say, in playing, in writing, in exercising, whatever. So this car is going to do a kind of big change and disruption. But let's go back to our book. In the book, the society and the people are unified under a global society called the world state. Everybody is kind of happy, calm, there are no conflicts. There is no God in the book, no 10 commandments, and no need for a spiritual pilgrimage. And all the resources, all the goods are available for everybody. But let me ask you, why no God? Maybe because God is incompatible with machines? Or maybe because since it's a society that doesn't have any conflicts, there is no need of a God to comfort us? Still, in the book, human reproduction is substituted by what we call today in vitro fertilization. Infants are mass-produced, and they are assigned a sort of role in society which is not going to be argued when they are born. So you have a role, and there are no conflicts. It's a sort of synthetic plastic, if I may, society. And the member of this society, are given values, ethical values, from the start, which are written by the world state, which cannot be changed. So they have to be like that because it's forced to be like that. Let's go back to our life. I don't know if you read or know the fact that we are trying to give machines the possibility of having ethical reasoning. There is a research funded by the US government which is trying to give machines, autonomous robotic system, the possibility to discover or to understand or identify what is right or wrong, giving them the possibility of having moral consequences. This activity was always given or was always taken of by philosophers and by thinkers. Do we want really to give machines the possibility to kind of guide us in an ethical situation? I don't know. Back in the book, the people do not get sick. And actually, they have a lifespan that is similar and equal to everybody, so they die at the same age. And if we see today in our life, we are trying to extend our lifespan with several activities, medicine activities, and as well we are trying to conquer or to defeat death, because this is what we are trying to do, to defeat the death. Do we want to conquer immorality? Do we want to actually be immortal? No immorality, immortality. Do we want to be immortal? There are several activities, and one of these is called cryonics, which enable you to have your body frozen and to wake up again in an age where all the illness or the majority of the illness are defeated. But what about our conscience? Are we going to freeze as well our soul? Health and medicine are running at a very fast pace thanks to the stem cell research, to the human enhancement, to neuroscience, to prosthetics. And these activities are really impacting our society. There is also another research which is trying to gain digital immortality. What's the meaning of that? It means that some researchers are saying that in 2045, we will be able to upload our memory, I don't know where, maybe in a cloud server, and to become digitally immortal. Some researchers believe that. Back to the book, it says, and this was 1930, try to imagine. It says that sex was just recreational, so it was regular and didn't have any borders or constraint, while wedding, parenthood, natural birth was considered an obscenity. Obscene, was considered obscene. And in order to guarantee that, the world state was giving to the population a legal drug called soma. Let's go back for a second to our life. And this soma was giving a sort of pleasure that allowed and guaranteed not to be transgressive. And don't forget, the transgression was getting married, having a regular life, which is, for us, a regular life. And this was 1930. So back to our day today, to our time today. Is digital technologies and social networks our new soma? You know that during this time, a lot of detox from digital activities, they are called digital detoxes, are popping up everywhere. And people are trying to really be detoxified by the continuous use of machine on devices. You know that children, including myself, I sleep with my mobile telephone very close to me. There is another thing that I would like to mention. Through gene therapy, through technologies, and as well through drugs, maybe, who knows, it's going to be possible to modify our personality. So maybe we could conquer the fact that we can conquer our jealousy, meaning that we can defeat our jealousy, we can conquer shyness, we can enhance creativity, but is this really the world we want to build? And I'm saying so because, in my opinion, we need to know what's going on. And this is what I got from Singularity University, and this is why I would like to convey to you this message, just to know and learn what's going on. Also because this kind of world is going to be really happiness, or is going to take us in a kind of world of solitude, in isolation. Another thing that I would like to mention is that more and more there is this trend or attitude or trying to do today, which is teaching kids a language that is called coding, which allows kids, or allows everybody that knows this language, to communicate with machines. This language that allows you to communicate with machine is going to be, first of all, probably a universal language, because it doesn't have the border of French, Italian, English. It's one for everybody. And also allows you to communicate through all the devices, in a sense, seamlessly. And probably it will give the possibility to overcome isolation, to become a little bit more, let's say, in conversation. We need as well to empower youth. And how can we do that? We can give youth all the devices, not all the technologies, the good technologies that we have today, in order to make them change makers and to really try to build a different world. Instead, what is our attitude today, or for the majority of the people? The attitude is that we have fear of these exponentially growing technologies. We have fear of the machines. We are fearing the robots. We are fearing the robots that will overpower us. We are fearing the robots that will attack and probably conquer us. And I have to say that, in a sense, is a responsibility of people like me, media, that it's portraying the technology, or the exponentially growing technology, in a fearful way, instead of giving as well, together with the fear, the tools to know what's going on. Because the point is that we don't know what's going on about this technological growth. Also because we have been fascinated by machines since the early times. I think that having inanimated matter and give life to inanimated matter, it's something that was a fascination since not only the early times, but since really myth and fairy tales. Like the ivory statue of Pygmalion or the wooded head of Pinocchio, or like the myth of Golem, or the imprudent Dr. Frankenstein. All of them testify that we have been always spellbound by this topic. But this topic also gives us a sort of anxiety, which Asimov described as the Frankenstein complex, which means that we, in a sense, have a sort of distance, we feel a sort of distance with the mechanical man. How can we build a future that is optimistic and a future at ease? Is it possible? Maybe, what if we trying to be kind of friends with machines instead of fear them, and we try to be even allies with them? Let me go back to my new passion, robots. I told you that before, that I have a passion now. What I would like to do is to demystify them a little bit. A few days ago, I got at home my 3D printer. It's my new toy. And right away, I understood that there is a huge possibility that this machine is going to make a huge change, like computer did a few years ago. I mean, several years ago at this point. Why? Because if you place a 3D printer in a school, gives the possibility to students to face problems or challenges via different sides, like a 3D printer. It's not bidimensional, it's three-dimensional. And as well, makes them right away inventor, creators. They have to think about prototypes. So we can really raise a new generation of makers. As well, robots. Now we talk about my thing. They're becoming social. They are becoming nicer. Let me show you a little video. I don't know if you know him. It's ASIMO. Let me show it to you. He can run. He can jump. He can even play soccer. This is an assistant robot. So it's not scary, right? Robots are kind of popping up everywhere. I have a little robot at home. It's not like that. I wish I had that. No, it's a round robot. It's thin. It cleans the floor. And I even call it by name. Her name is Matilda. But robots, you can find robots in the operation room, you can find robots in the hospital, you can find robots, I don't know, in the car, everywhere. They're popping up everywhere. There are two people, two great minds of today. One is Steve Hawking and the other one is Ray Kurzweil, who have a very divergent opinion about the future and how we are building the future. Steve Hawking, that outside the academia is well known for his mega success, is a book called Brief History of Time, says that artificial intelligence probably is the most important achievement that human beings are doing today. But he says as well that, unfortunately, this kind of achievement is going to be probably the last if you don't face what kind of consequences a risk is going to make. While Ray Kurzweil, who's the co-founder of Singularity University, and as well is the chief technology officer of Google, says that in 2029, we will be able to build autonomous systems that will have the possibility to have our own thinking. Actually, they will surpass us. So my point is that instead of being divergent, let's try to make one road. And instead that, I would like to tell you my hypothesis. Usually what we do a forecasting. That means that we analyze the data that we have here, and then we project it in the future. What I do instead is backcasting, which is the contrary. In order to do that, let me tell you a story that I borrowing from a speaker of TEDx Transmedia, which is the event I curate. So we are talking about the mission on the moon, and I'm going to tell you how they did it. You remember that in 1961, the Russians sent Yuri Gagarin on the space. And of course, the Americans were not happy because the Americans want to be always the first. We know that. So what did they do? A few days after, Kennedy came out with a big speech, very famous speech, that said, in this decade, we are going to send men on the moon and back. So it was a safe mission that he announced. NASA was kind of mesmerized. They didn't know really what to do because they were able, yes, they had a space mission, space activities, but they didn't know really to send something on the space outside the atmosphere. So how did they do it? They started with organizing the welcoming party. Why? Because if you have the welcoming party, you have to have the astronauts back to welcome, because otherwise you don't have any party. And if you have the astronauts back to welcome, it means that you were able to have them landed on Earth. How? So they started to think, do we have them landed on the ground? Probably not, because they are going to smash. So what do? We can have them land on the sea. Yeah, that's good. How? Maybe with a big parachute. So they started to work on that. But then, if you have the astronauts back on the seaside, it means that they were able to pass the atmosphere. So they started to work on that. And then, if they pass the atmosphere, it means that they were able to leave the ground of the moon. And they started to work on that. But if they were able to leave the ground of the moon, it means that they were also able to land on the moon. So what did they do? They backplanned until the speech of Kennedy. And they had the road completely designed, completely laid out. So what I would like to say, and I would like to finish with that, it's like Denise. I would like to give you an optimistic message, because everybody has the power to build a future, or a little piece of the future. So instead of having fear of the technologies, the exponentially growing technologies, let's start knowing and reading what's going on. Let's start to get on with it, and let's build the future. Thank you.